Hello, Sue O'Leary Hall here. Great to be with you again if we've met before, and if we haven't, I've been working with Cundall pupils, parents and staff for about the last 4 years. And today I've been working with the pupils in Thornton on a range of problem solving activities. Some of the problems would be foreseen, others would be unintended and unexpected to the pupils. And they've been given the opportunity to think about how they would plan for things that they might be able to anticipate and cope when things go wrong that in a way that they couldn't have possibly anticipated. And that's all been part of their strategy for preparing them for this year, this Thornton year, because as we all know, there's lots and lots of uncertainty ahead. And also there are some things that they can put in place to set them up for success now, and there are going to be times when they've got to adapt accordingly when things go wrong that perhaps they couldn't have anticipated. So what we're going to be talking about this evening is how parents can support the pupils in Thornton through this, their final year of GCSE. And that's quite a tricky one really, isn't it? Because at the moment we don't know exactly what the GCSEs are going to look like and what form they're going to take. The Education Select Committee was spoken with last week by Roger Taylor, who is the chair of Ofqual, and he suggested to them that as well as having a reduced curriculum this year to take account of the fact that pupils have obviously missed a number of months of their education in year 10 in Eldmire, as well as having that reduced curriculum, there will be a slightly extended year this year in the run-up to the exams. The potential exam date is the 7th of June. Now, it's not set in stone that will happen, but that's what's being suggested at this stage by Ofqual, to give teachers a little bit more time to cover the curriculum that remains to be covered, and to give pupils that little bit of extra revision time. Now, obviously, we may end up in another lockdown situation this year, and when Mr. Taylor was challenged about that in the Education Select Committee meeting, he has suggested that they may go to an online testing system if it's not possible to administer GCSEs in the traditional manner in school. Now, we don't have any detail about how that would work, and the jury's out on whether that's going to be an acceptable way to test pupils this year, because obviously there's lots of issues around how that might be administered with pupils doing online testing at home and so forth. But there should be more guidance being published on that over the coming weeks and months, we are promised by Ofqual, so it's literally a wait and see. So how on earth can we prepare pupils for a GCSE situation when we don't know exactly what they're going to be facing? Well, one thing that we do expect is that they're likely to have some form of external testing. Ofqual have stated really firmly that they do not want to follow the same system as has happened this summer with teacher assessed grades, which are then reconsidered through this algorithmic method that's caused so many issues this year, with pupils being awarded erroneous grades and then having to have those overturned. So we know that our pupils are going to be facing some kind of testing. So with that in mind, there's a certain amount of things that we can do to help them get ready for that, and that we can reassure them about as they prepare. So first things first, we know that there is a curriculum that they have to cover. It's a reduced curriculum, as I've already mentioned, but there are still the subjects that they're studying with a certain amount of curriculum content to learn and to revise and to prepare for exams, whatever form they take. So with that in mind, the staff at Cundall have started this week and will continue over the coming days to undertake a subject knowledge audit for each subject. And what they're looking to find out is what are the areas in which pupils are already really confident and competent in each of their GCSE subjects, and which are the areas where they need some more support, they need some more learning time. Now that's a great starting point, and actually for parents and pupils, when you are working with your child at home, using the information from that subject knowledge audit is a brilliant starting point to say, right, okay, these are the gaps in your knowledge. So let's take 10 to 15 minutes on each of those topics over the coming weeks. Each night, let's do a little bit each night and build up that knowledge. Obviously, pupils will have teaching in school to help them fill those gaps as well, but we could spend 10 to 15 minutes at home each night working on those areas. So that's a really easy win, and actually I'd really recommend doing that stuff at the start of a prep session. If it's something that your child finds really tricky, then get them to do it first. As the Americans say, eat the ugly frog first, and then everything else will seem a little bit easier afterwards. Okay, so the second thing that we know that's certainly going to be the case this year is that pupils will be experiencing what we call blended learning, which is basically a combination of face-to-face teaching in school and some online learning at home. Even if we don't have another lockdown, they're going to be accessing prep online at home, and Google Classroom is available throughout the year to support families at home as well. So one thing that we need to ensure is that we actually have, first of all, the right equipment for our children to access that learning at home. If they've been pinching your work laptop all the way through lockdown, this might be the time to invest in a laptop for your child, or something like a Chromebook, which are really quite inexpensive and perfectly adequate for them to cover the curriculum at home. It's worth thinking about whether you have enough data available in your broadband package if you end up working at home and you've got a child studying online as well. So it might just be worth thinking about checking that you have enough speed on your data package, and thinking about the right environment as well. Children really do need a dedicated study area in which they can base themselves when they're working at home through this year. They need a desk, they need some kind of shelving where they can put all of their GCSE folders and files and textbooks and revision guides, and they need the basic stationery, pens, pencils, highlighters, all of that stuff, as well as some kind of online capability as well. Now, I'd really recommend making that study area somewhere other than their bedroom, because otherwise you run the risk of them getting into bed at night and the last thing they see when they close their eyes is that desk with all of the work waiting for them to do the next morning, and that isn't particularly conducive to a good night's sleep. If it's not possible for them to have a dedicated study area somewhere other than their bedroom, you could just do something as simple as using a throw to cover their desk at night so that they're not looking at all of the revision they've got to do before they go to sleep. But it's certainly worth thinking about how you set them up with that dedicated space that is their space for the whole year that they can go to each night when they're studying. Okay, next thing that we certainly know is that one way or another they are going to have a set of GCSE results at the end of this year. However that is administered, however that comes about, they are going to be doing GCSEs this year. So with that in mind, I would really recommend setting out very clear expectations about study habits now and reinforcing those and revisiting those as you go on through the year with your child. Certainly they've had a good start. They had 4 weeks extra teaching in June into July, which most of their peers nationally didn't have. So that's going to give them a springboard to get started. They now, though, need to hit the ground running as they start this term. Everybody in this year group nationally will probably feel as though they're at some kind of disadvantage because they've missed some teaching time, but they're all in the same boat. And actually, these students in Thornton are in a better position than lots of their peers because they've had that extra 4 weeks. So they now need to capitalise on that advantage and move forward by studying day in, day out. I would suggest doing something 6 days a week. There needs to be a day off where they have a proper break, but there should be some kind of study happening. I would suggest 6 days a week. And the chances are you're going to need to help them build that up. It might be they start with half an hour, 45 minutes most days, and then on a couple of days perhaps they just do sort of 15 to 20 minutes. But it's about getting that habit established and that becoming their normal week, whether it's in term time or in the holidays. Just 15 minutes a week of extra study over the course of this year up to the 7th of June, if that ends up being the start of GCSEs, would give Thornton an extra 60 hours preparation time for those exams. So 15 minutes a day, 6 days a week is an extra 60 hours of exam prep. That's a really significant amount of impact that can be made with a very small amount of input. So I think it's really important that we just get that habit set up right now and really support them with that. And with that in mind, one of the things that has come out of lockdown is a report by the National Foundation of Educational Research into how people have spent their time when they're studying at home. And what came out of that quite alarmingly was that only about 40% of pupils were submitting the work set. Now, at Cundall, it was around 70%, which is massively better than the national picture. And that obviously is testament not just to the fact that Cundall pupils work hard, but also to the fact that Cundall parents work hard in ensuring that their pupils are doing the study that they're supposed to be doing. And sometimes what we find is that by the time pupils get into Thornton, parents think, well, you know, these guys are used to studying, they're used to managing their workload. This is the last year of GCSEs, they should be able to do this now. And actually, what the data tells us is that that's not always the case. 10 minutes at the end of their prep session, just having a chat with you and showing you what they've done, not just telling you, because sometimes pupils do exaggerate a little bit in terms of what they say they've done, but actually being able to say, hang on a minute, let me just see that, is really worthwhile. Getting them to show you what they've done in that prep session, and also really importantly, at the end of each prep session, saying to you and making a note themselves of what they are going to do tomorrow. What are their priorities tomorrow? What's their ugly frog that they're going to eat first? What's the thing that they're going to work on that they find tricky first? And then how are they going to schedule the rest of their prep for the next day? Just that 10 minutes of checking in with you at the end of each prep session is really, really worthwhile if you're able to find that time. And I know it's tricky because I know lots of us are working lots of hours and having to rejig our own workloads. So it's about doing what's manageable for us as parents as well. Okay. The next thing is actually, you may find that as you get towards Christmas, and certainly into January and February, when it's dark, when it's miserable, when the exam pressure feels increasingly real because we're in the actual year of the exams, we're in 2021, you may find that that's the time when your child starts to take their foot off the gas because the pressure all feels too much, when the bad moods come about, when the grumpiness happens, or they start to withdraw. That's the time to just, if you are able to, be present as much as you can. It might just be 20 minutes a day. Young Minds, for example, the mental health charity suggests take 20. So it could just be your drive to school, it could be while you're cooking dinner, and just being present and having a natter with them. It doesn't have to be anything heavy or serious, just how their day's gone, what they're up to, what they think about, you know, their football team and their chances in the next match, whatever it is. Just being present, being that anchor through what will feel probably to these year 11s like a bit of a storm that's coming. And it might be that you get the kickback from the storm. It might be that you're the person that gets the moods and the tantrums and the strop. But actually, if it's possible to reframe that, then please do, because they feel safe enough with you to show you those feelings that they're finding difficult to cope with. I'm not in any way suggesting that we allow them to behave really badly, no, but it might be they need to blow off some steam first, and then you have a chat with them about expectations around behaviour afterwards. But actually, as the pressure ramps up, just being that stable, steady pair of hands that they can go to is going to be really, really important. Now, in March, we have a session planned for revision for Thornton, and that'll be a workshop all about how to revise most effectively, how to spend time prioritising appropriately with revision, and touch wood, all being well, if we aren't in a lockdown situation, there will be a face-to-face parent seminar as well about how you can support your child with revision through those last few months in the run-up to their exams. So if you have particular questions that you want to raise in that session, do feel free to contact me through the Thornton website. We have a contact page, it's thorntoncoachingandtraining.com, or contact Dawn Thine, who is the deputy head, and she can pass any questions or concerns you've got on to me, and I'll make sure that we address those in that parent seminar with you in March. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. Good luck supporting your Thornton people over the coming months, and please do stay safe. And I'll really look forward to seeing you in March. Bye for now.